Well, hello, and happy new year again, because we're still in January. Starting the season 8, of course, has started, and it's another exciting episode on issues and answers with yours truly, Honorable Valencia Stovall. Today is January the 30th, Monday, and our discussion today will help you to understand, hopefully, what happens in probate court. But you are listening to the new WCEG Network, WCEG Talk Radio. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. And of course, you know I must give this disclaimer. The topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests and not of WCEG Network. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram at WCEG _talk _radio and at WCEG Network. And you can also, y'all, we have an app. So now you can download our app, WCEG Network. And we're also on Apple TV and Apple Watch. So there's no reason that you cannot listen to issues and answers while you're on the go. So we thank you for your continued support, and make sure you tell a friend. Well, our last episode, we talked about New Year, New Beginnings. And so, this is part of our New Year, New Beginnings, is making sure that you're educated on those things that you normally would not know about or always wondered about. So I'm honored to have our special guest, Chief Probate Court Judge, Kenya M. Johnson of Fulton County. And I was first acquainted with her as the founder of a ladies tennis organization some years ago. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Prior to her historic win in June 2020, she served as the Chief Deputy Solicitor General and Chief Deputy District Attorney in Fulton County. For over 15 years, Judge Johnson has been a frequent contributor on CNN and Court TV, and she has earned national accolades for groundbreaking youth crime prevention and community crime reduction programming. I know they're going to be turning to Judge Johnson for some of this stuff we have now with all this crime with our young people. So Judge Johnson also was awarded the Distinguished Leader Award by the Fulton County Daily Report, Community Service Award by former U.S. Attorney Sally Yates. She's a distinguished alum of Clark Atlanta University, Go Panthers, and was named Top 25 Women of Atlanta by Rolling Out Magazine. And in 2021, Judge Johnson was named 2021 Woman of the Year and listed as one of Georgia's most powerful and influential women by Women Works Media Group. Wow. She has provided some outstanding services to the citizens in Fulton. And as probate judge, her mission is to make life-improving probate services more accessible to citizens in need and to educate communities about estate planning and intergenerational wealth. So you all help me in welcoming Judge Johnson, who lives in South Fulton with her husband and 2 children. And she's also an active member of her community and church. So thank you, Judge Johnson, and welcome to Issues and Answers on WCEG Talk Radio. And thank you so much again for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I can only imagine how busy you all are down in Fulton County. So tell the audience, why did you decide to become an attorney, first of all, and then a judge? And more specifically, why did you choose probate court?
Well, Ms. Stovall, first, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your work that you've done for our community in this forum and beyond, your service in the legislature. You come from such a storied, historic Atlanta family, and so I'm glad to join you today. I forgot how we met. And so what made me want to become an attorney and then a judge? Wanted to be able to help others. I realized that our communities have been taken advantage of because of things that we didn't know. And so I was a former prosecutor, and where I believed in second chances. And now as a judge, I want to be able to bring life-improving probate services into our neighborhood. goods. Typically, probate has been where people come to react to an event in their lives. Someone passed away, or you have an aging parent that needs a guardianship. But by empowering and educating our community, we can begin to plan ahead with estate planning and plan for our loved ones as they begin to age and become more proactive instead of being reactive. And so that's my goal as your Fulton County Probate Court judge.
Wow, thank you. And that means a lot, especially when you hear from a judge, really caring about the community and knowing that there have been some things that have happened in the past that has not been as advantageous to the community as it should be. And a lot of it is through education. And so, I did want to mention, I received my dad received this in Fulton County, and I'm gonna hold this up, y'all, so I can see this brochure that was very informative from your office, and it says, "Get your affairs in order for the new year. What is probate?" And then it goes on to give some other valuable information about having a will and starting your conversation with your family. So if you all live in Fulton County, I'm pretty sure that you all received this brochure. And if you didn't, definitely contact Judge Johnson's office and say, "Hey, I want that brochure that Uncle Stovall was talking about on her show." It's very, very good information. And so when I was thinking about upcoming shows, I was like, okay, I like to keep my audience informed and educated. I said, so let me reach out to Judge Johnson. I definitely appreciate the quick response back from your office. It's always a quick response and very professional. I really appreciate that. So you're welcome. So please tell the citizens who may not know what happens in the office of probate court. Anytime citizens hear about court, they get nervous and they just start sweating and said, "I don't want to go down there to the courthouse." But what would send them to the probate court, your actual court?
That is a great question. So probate court, that's exactly what we want to avoid, is people feeling worried that they might go to jail or court. If I could wear a red robe, I would. I just want you to feel a different vibe than you may when you come to other courts. So probate court is an agency that provide services. We issue marriage license, firearms license. We even issue fireworks licenses. But it's also a court where we handle contested matters and uncontested matters. So we deal with guardianships, again, adult guardianships. If you have an aging parent who can't quite continue to care for themselves, then you may get an adult guardianship so that you can pay their bills for them and make medical decisions for them. Or a minor guardianship. How many grandparents do we know that are raising their grandchildren and they may need to get a minor guardianship to register that grandchild for school in their neighborhood? And we also handle estates. So for when someone passes away and they own property or they lived here in Fulton County, they may have to open up a probate estate. And that is how you manage the affairs of someone that's passed away. When someone passes away, they pass away either with a will or without a will. And if you pass away without a will, then it is Georgia law that determines where your items go. And that's usually to your closest blood relation or your spouse. And then when you pass away with a will, then a will is simply a set of instructions on what to do with your belongings, your hard-earned belongings, when you pass away. And sometimes the instructions that you leave behind, your family may not be so happy with, and they may object to that will. And those are the things that come in probate court when people want to say someone had undue influence over someone in their later or final days, and they changed their will 2 months before they died. Or somebody may have been a caretaker for someone, and they may have made the deceased may have said, I want to give you the house because you've been here for me these last couple of months. I'm gonna give you the house. But if they had a will and that house is going to someone else, then that doesn't feel so good. And so those are the type of disputes that we hear in probate court. So we're here to encourage estate planning and speaking with your families and having those difficult conversations so that everyone is on the same page when a loved one passes away.
Ooh, y'all do a whole lot of stuff down there in probate court. And I didn't realize that even with, I think with the marriage license and with the weapons carrying permission, even fireworks, I bet you y'all are really busy almost whenever there's that special holiday time of the year.
Oh, absolutely. With all the teams here in Atlanta and in the area, we do a lot of fireworks.
Wow. And I can imagine too, as challenging as it is anytime, now with the legislature in session, and then after all of these laws end up getting signed into signed into law, you all having to go back and update all of your information that you all already are servicing. So I can just imagine what happens. I'd be feeling glad enough 40 days are over. Go ahead, Governor, sign it in so we can know when we're supposed to start the new process.
Absolutely. And I do want to add, so just last year, Governor Kemp signed a bill that allows for constitutional carry. This is as it relates to carrying a concealed weapon or an open carry weapon. So before, if you wanted to carry a handgun in public, you had to have a weapons carry license, come through probate court and go through a background check. Well, as of last year, Georgia joined several other states to allow for constitutional carry. That means that you don't have to have a weapons carry license to carry a firearm. However, all the prohibitions that were in place are still in place. And that's what a lot of people don't know. If you're a convicted felon, you still can't carry a firearms license. If you have a mental health diagnosis, you still can't carry a firearms license. So, but several people still get firearms licenses so that they can travel with their weapon. We have reciprocity with 27 other states. So if you're going from Atlanta to another, from Georgia to another state, and you want to carry your weapon and don't want to have to explain Georgia law on the side of the road, then you can still come to your local probate court, get your firearms license, and then you can hit the road. Just don't take your license to the airport. They're getting record numbers of people forgetting that they have their weapon with them and having to declare their weapon.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was like, don't take that weapon to the airport. That does not apply there.
Absolutely. But the good thing is, for those that have accidentally taken their weapon to the airport, now they will allow you to at least still catch your flight. You will have a citation and still have to return to court, but you won't necessarily get arrested immediately and miss your flight.
Okay. So that means that they must have to leave their guns there at the airport then. And then when they come back, they can get it back.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can get it back, but they're definitely going to take it from you in that moment. So just don't avoid it altogether and don't bring your weapon to the airport.
Right. So they almost probably need a sign that says, instead of click it and don't get a ticket, click it or get a ticket, they need to come up with something fancy about taking your guns to the airport and making sure they remember, double check before you get out.
Absolutely. And there's signs everywhere. Now that I've said it, you'll start to notice it, and people still, sometimes they still bring their weapons by accident. But a responsible gun owner knows where their weapon is at all times. And so those mistakes are small drops in the bucket compared to the amount of people in Georgia that actually do have a weapons carry license and are responsible gun owners.
Yes. And now I did read where the commitments of mental ill, alcohol, and substance abusers. So what do you handle as far as dealing with that? I saw that on the website. When someone sees that, what does that mean?
Absolutely. So, Ms. Stovall, if someone is exhibiting behavior that is a danger to themselves or a danger to others, then their family members, or technically two witnesses, can come to probate court and swear before the judge that this person is doing questionable behavior, and that person can actually be picked up by law enforcement and transferred to a receiving facility in Fulton County. That's Grady. It used to be Atlanta Medical Center and Grady. Now it's just Grady. And the law provides where that person can be be held up to 72 hours. So just by the testimony of 2 people, someone can be picked up and kept under observation and likely medicated for 72 hours. And then it'll come through probate court again to determine if additional commitment needs to be had. So for those that are having a mental health crisis or undergoing some sort of psychosis due to drug and alcohol abuse, then probate court can offer relief to those families who are obviously very worried about their loved ones.
Oh, wow. That's very, very good to know, because there's so many cases and things that you're hearing dealing with mental illness. And, sometimes, a lot of times, the families just don't know, what to do. They don't want them to harm themselves and let alone harm anybody else. So that is good to know that. Like I said, I was looking, I was like, oh, I didn't know they did that as well. And now I saw what recording of elected officials' oaths and bonds. You all keep that as well?
Yes, so we swear in our local officials. Now, someone on your level, when you were a representative, your oath and bond would go toward the Secretary of State. But for many of the local judges and county officials, we swear them in regularly, especially around December after local elections and before they take their terms in January.
Oh, that's good. I learned something new. I always try to learn something new as well. And that's good to, even when you talked about the guardianship, I do a lot of volunteering and support to school systems, to our local school system. And a lot of times, like you said, you have grandparents who are raising grandchildren, and they, for whatever reason, the actual parent is not around or not available. And they have a hard time being able to register those kids into school, which causes them to, of course, lose education time. And a lot of times they don't know, what to do with that as well. So that's good to know that that's one of the responsibilities of the probate court, is that guardianship.
Yes, and that's called a minor guardianship. And so when the parents consent to the guardianship, that makes it much, much easier. And sometimes the parents don't consent. And then we have to have a hearing to determine what's in the best interest of the child. So we work very closely with juvenile court and the Department of Family and Children Services to make sure that when a family is in some sort of crisis and the natural parent can't care for the child, that those in the family that are good choices to care for the child can be able to do so.
Yes, that's very good. So that was
shout out to our grandparents who are raising.
Oh yes, woo, they've done it one time, and then you have to go back and do it a double time. Woo, I know, especially these children. Woo, and that's a whole nother show. We're not even gonna talk about that. So there was a question about what determines if a judge is voted in or appointed position. And I'll take a crack at it, and then Judge Johnson, whatever I missed, you can add in. Whenever any of the positions that are elected by, according to the Constitution, there are certain positions that have to be voted on by the Constitution and by the state law. And whenever there's a vacancy that happens in that elected position, then depending on what the position is, then there's a certain allotment of time before that an appointment can be made until the next regular election or a special election can be held. And so that's the difference between the two. So you have appointed positions that may be you have different committees or councils or not departments, what's the word I'm looking for? They're created, these particular boards, that's what I was looking for, boards. So a lot of times boards are either created by state law or by local law, and those are appointed by the elected officials. And so that's the appointed position, but not appointed for as far as with judge. It just depends of what county you're in. And some of those positions, like in Clayton, the juvenile judge is not elected. It's appointed by Superior Court judges. And so, but in Fulton County, I believe the juvenile judge is elected. Is it elected in Fulton?
No. So the juvenile court judges are appointed. However, Superior Court judges are also superior and state court judges are elected. And only, as you described so eloquently, when somebody vacates an elected office, there's a period of time that there can be a temporary person put in place by appointment until the next election. And so we call those unelected incumbents, somebody that got into office as an appointee, but they never ran an election. And so for probate court, I am what is called a constitutional officer. There are 4 constitutional officers in the state of Georgia for every single county, and those are based on the bare bones of government. So you have your tax commissioner to collect the money, you have your clerk of superior court to record all the activities in the county, you have your sheriff, who is the chief the chief law enforcement officer of the county. And then you have the probate judge, who used to be the catch-all judge for everything that wasn't specific to another court. So I'm one of 4 constitutional officers. And because I am elected, my messaging will always be to the people that I serve. And we'll always be checking in and looking to educate and making sure we're doing a good job for the people, because I know who got me in the office and we know who can get us out.
Yes. Now, how many, do you have like assistant judges that assist you? Because I know Fulton County is very huge. And so I can imagine how many cases are coming, before your court.
Thank you for asking that. We are the largest court in the state. We are the most populous county, and we have the highest number of estates and guardianship cases. And so I do not have an associate judge, but thank you for asking, because that is something that we were just granted by our budget in 2023. We had a big backlog after the pandemic. However, we put some things in place. We're doing virtual hearings. We're doing status conferences. We're doing appointments. And so we have been able to get down our backlog, and we're seeing things in quicker time than we used to. People would think, probate was like a divorce and it would take several years to resolve, but we are moving those cases much simpler. I have lots of part-time judges that are helping us. We'll be bringing on some full-time judges, but we have been able to engage other lawyers and judges to help us get down our caseload. So you will see a new Fulton County Probate Court, one that is rooted in technology and efficiency.
Great, great. We had another question, but I'm going to come back to that question. I want to get through with the other information to make sure we don't run out of time. So I'll come back. Is a question that was in the chat, but we'll come back to it. So what can the citizens do to make the process easier before coming to your courtroom?
That is a great question. Now, what I sent out at the end of the year was something saying and reminding people to get your affairs in order for the new year. The largest part of our contested estates, or the work that we do, and the saddest part of the work that we do, is that when people don't engage in estate planning, it leaves the family to figure out where this person's items should go. When you don't plan on how you're going to pay for your own funeral, you leave it for your family to decide and to have to sell off certain assets. The saddest part about the work that we do is when someone inherits a property and they don't know how to own and keep a property. You've got to pay insurance. You've got to pay taxes. And so the story that I had in my family was that my great grandmother's house, which had been paid off for years, she passed away, her child passed away, her child passed away, all without a will. So the property was separated amongst 20 cousins, many of us who didn't know each other well. And so steadily taxes are building up. And what people don't know is just after 2 years of not paying taxes, just like in Fulton County, you can buy the tax lien, and you are required to hold that tax lien for 1 year. If someone doesn't pay off that tax lien, you now own that piece of property. So that's how investors are able to come into disenfranchised neighborhoods and go through and look at properties that are overgrown, that look like someone's not paying attention to them. Look it up online, the address, buy the tax lien, sometimes for mere pennies on what that property is worth. And if the family can't get it together to buy that tax lien back, then Big Mama's house is sold to an investor, and the only people that get rich are the people that aren't in the family. So that is an issue that we see. That is, estate property is what is much of the blight in the city of Atlanta. You can go through neighborhoods and see neglected properties and we should know that these options are there to either make sure that our own properties don't fall prey to that, or to look into investment properties for ourselves to keep properties in within certain neighborhoods. And so we're losing our neighborhoods, Ms. Stovall, to investors. And we're doing it because we don't know that you could lose your property for taxes. So this is where the education piece comes in. This is where the planning piece comes in. It is important to have an estate plan, either a will or a trust, even if it means that you buy a $50 program at Office Depot or buy a $39 program that is online, but it's Georgia specific. It's important to have a will because sometimes families get into contested matters, and I've seen families really torn apart over a little bit of money, much less lots of money and lots of assets.
Right. And I could just imagine, like you said, that example about the 20 different cousins. I mean, how is it that you're able to decipher what eventually happens with something like, I mean, does it continuously stay in the court, or is it at one point that is decided on, or does it go to like a jury trial for them to decide, or?
So I'll tell you this, somebody has to take charge in the family, okay? Somebody has to lead the process. So let's talk a little bit about intestate succession. If you were to pass away right now and you did not have a will, if you have a spouse and you have children, it'll go to your spouse and your children. If you didn't have a spouse, it'll go to your children. If you didn't have children, it'll go to your spouse. If you don't have a spouse or children, then it goes to your parents. If your parents are not alive, then it goes to your brothers and sisters. If you don't have any brothers or sisters alive, then it goes to your nieces and nephews, and on and on and on. So Georgia has what's called a laughing heir statute. The law will keep going until it finds somebody related by blood to you, and it may be somebody you never even met, and they're laughing all the way to the bank. So that's why they call it the laughing heir statute, because they will find somebody that's related to you. But sometimes those family members might not be in agreement. And they may not want to own a piece of property together, or cannot. And those bills and taxes come around every year. So somebody's got to take charge to pay those taxes and pay those bills. Otherwise, the whole family could lose it. In my family, I didn't have, at the time, as a young 20-something, I didn't have the money to pay the taxes. Nobody else wanted to put forth the money because they didn't know how things were going to play out. And so we wound up losing it to investors. And that was the house that my parents that my great-great-grandparents walked 2 blocks every month to pay the mortgage by hand at the bank. And I even have the book register from all the years, the 30 years that they paid that mortgage, and now we don't have anything to show for it. And investors wound up selling it for 4 times its value. Imagine what that equity could have done. There are plenty of people that are living in the houses named in a dead still titled to a dead person. That means you can't get any home improvement loan, you can't sell the house, you can't do anything with it. So it pays to go through the probate process and get the paperwork in order so that this money can work for your family. That equity can be used to fund a business, that equity can be used to send somebody to college, whatever you choose to use it for, make it work for your family instead of losing it.
Right. Oh, this is some good information, Judge. Oh my goodness. Even in the chat, people been commenting wild, and even you know how sad some of the situations are. And I know you all see a lot of it many times as well. And so just a couple of questions that did come into the chat was, how long does the probate process take? Is that, and I think you kind of end up answering that the minimum and maximum was until there's someone that's found, according to the laughing law of Georgia.
Yes. So typically, if it's a contested estate, if someone is objecting to the will or objecting to who's going to be the administrator of the estate, of course, that's going to take a little longer because it goes through the judge. But if it, and it has to be scheduled for a trial, so that could take anywhere between 3 months to a year to get before the judge, depending upon how complicated the contest or the objection is. However, if everyone is in harmony, there's a will in place, then everything can be done as quickly as immediately. If all the paperwork is in order or shortly afterward, you have to give notice to all the heirs. That usually takes about 30 days. But if your paperwork is in order, things move very quickly and people can get their letters of administration or testamentary letters in short order.
Wow. Woo.
All depends
Okay.
on how much in harmony your family is. That'll determine how quickly things will go.
All right. So you all heard that from the judge. You got the, like I said, this brochure said, your affairs in order. Everybody got to go back and check now after this broadcast to make sure we got everything, in order.
And
And
Ms.
so,
Stovall, not just having stuff in order, but double checking and making sure it's still in order because life circumstances change. Had a recent case where the life insurance policy was in the ex-wife's name from 20 years ago. So the new wife didn't walk away with anything and the ex-wife got everything. You think she shared? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It was legally hers and she walked away with it all. So it's important to double check your beneficiaries. See if that is still your will after a while.
ooh, boy, I can imagine the firecrackers that were going off on that day. Ooh, wait. Oh, but thank you for that information. And so the question I have, like I said, I do a lot of work with youth and advising them on career pathways. And if there was a youth that's listening, or even a parent who's listening, and their young person or youth may be interested in being an attorney or a judge, what words of wisdom would you give to them?
Absolutely. I always wanted to be a judge, and I started off being an attorney. So what happens is you graduate high school and get a GED, you get a 4-year college degree, and then you go to law school, which is usually about 3 years full time. You take the bar exam, and then you become a lawyer. And all judges used to be lawyers at some point. They're barred by the State Bar of Georgia. What I would recommend to any young person that is interested in being a lawyer and ultimately a judge is that you look at what interests you. There's so many areas of law: family law, criminal law, civil law. Each of it plays a part in making our society go around. But one thing I teach young people in our youth crime prevention programs is that everything you do has consequences. If you are under 17 years old and you commit a crime, that's a juvenile offense, and that's going to be sealed. But if you're over 17 and you commit a crime, your criminal history, things don't fall off like a credit report. They stay with you forever. And so we would see instances where young people will get in trouble, and it's just because they didn't know the law. And so if you rob the pizza delivery man with a play gun, well, that's very much armed robbery. Or if you help somebody else commit a crime or credit card fraud, you could be held just as responsible for helping someone commit a crime as the person that actually did the crime. And so we want to get young people to start critically thinking, if I do this, then this will happen. Because once you get a criminal record, you can't get the Hope Scholarship or financial aid. It's hard for you to get a job because employers do pull criminal records. For some people, you can't even adopt a child with a criminal record. You can't get decent housing. And so your criminal history does follow you. There have been great strides in expunging certain criminal offenses, low-level, non-violent, but it's important to be if we can get young people not to be young and dumb sometimes, that we used to call them, and just know that your actions as a young person can follow you throughout your life. So be smart from the beginning and position yourself for success from the very beginning.
Wow, thank you for that. And now, does your office offer paid or unpaid internships for high school and college students that are interested?
Currently, we do not have paid internships, but starting in 2023, I'm going to work to change that and offer more people an opportunity. As I'm encouraging people to have an estate plan, we have to build more attorneys that do estate planning for disenfranchised communities and citizens. And so I'm going to be working aggressively to build up more probate lawyers for the more people that will engage in estate planning. And that starts in high school. So please check in with us by the spring. I hope to have some things in place to expose more people to probate law. Because listen, you may not have a criminal case, you may not have a civil case or a landlord-tenant case, but everyone passes away and everyone has somebody in their life that passes away. So I look at probate court as the true people's court because it affects every single person.
Right. And I know when I was elected, I actually did a town hall and had the Georgia Heirs Properties department to come out and talk with my constituents about the, how that works with the property and the estate planning and all of that as well. So I know that they offer. Now, if there are some other questions that people may have, do you have, like, I know most of the time you go to court, they say we can't give you any legal advice and it, because of that, but is there any other way that you're able to help the citizens, even though you're not giving them advice, but they could be able to come into a building or go online and kind of know what to do with the paperwork?
So that's correct. We can't give legal advice. However, many of the probate forms are found online and they're designed to be user-friendly and fill in the blank. So you can go to gaprobate.gov. That's gaprobate.gov. And they have all the forms for the different types of actions that you may want. And then we have a partnership with Atlanta Legal Aid. They have a probate division. And if people have questions or need some assistance with a probate matter, we encourage them to reach out to Atlanta Legal Aid. And you mentioned Georgia Heirs Property. We've partnered with them. Georgia Heirs Property primarily helps people in rural Georgia to keep farms in their families. But I submitted to them that in the metro area, the citizens in houses that have heir property very much need assistance as well. So we're trying to work to get them funding so that they can also service inner city neighborhoods as well, because heir property is something that we are losing at an alarming rate through gentrification, through investments, just by losing properties. And having and owning property is the cornerstone of wealth in our community. Yeah. So losing it is a tragedy, nothing less than a tragedy. And so we need their help inside the city, in the cities and the urban areas as well.
All right, so you all who are listening, you heard the judge say that Georgia Heirs Property, they need some assistance. So, I always talk about making sure that you are advocates for your community. And this, now the legislative session, they're in session now, the legislators are down there. So everybody has a state representative and they have a state senator. And this is the time to advocate for that budget, for them to put, it's all this excess money that you all heard governors talk about. So this is the time to be able to put that in, because she's right. They call it legacy property, legacy families. That means that property has been in your family for a very, very long time and it's been passed down. And so even if it was just money put in there just for Georgia Heirs Property, to be able to focus on just the legacy properties by itself, that would be, that would significantly help many of our communities, which are seeing a lot that's going on with gentrification and also people that are actually investors that are just coming in, swooping up. And what happens is when those investors come in and say like my dad has a legacy property, and then everything around him is building up, so they takes his taxes up, even though you get the senior citizen discount, but still the value, everything goes up around, that legacy property. And so you want to be able to fix it up and do things you need to do with it. But like she said, if you don't know, and sometimes these people are calling and they can be slick when they start calling and end up talking you out your own property. You didn't even know that was going on. So definitely you all reach out to your legislators on the House and the Senate side while they're talking about their budget, and asked for additional money to be put in. Now, there was another question. Are there judges that are solely assigned for domestic violence cases? And if so, are they appointed or elected?
Okay, so state court handles misdemeanor offenses. Those are offenses that carry a sentence of less than a year. That's where you see most of your domestic violence or family violence cases. And so those are state court judges, and state court judges are elected. The Fulton State Court bench, many of the judges have been on the bench for many years, and there hasn't been much movement on that bench. And then for your more serious offenses, like an aggravated assault or a choking, they go to Superior Court, and Superior Court judges are elected as well. So your domestic violence and your more serious domestic violence offenses are both handled by elected judges.
Yes. Well, thank you so very much, Judge Johnson. I know we went over a lot of time for our interview, but it got so good, and I just thought about some other questions, and the other people started asking questions, and it just was a wealth of knowledge. Now, was there anything else that you would like for the listening audience to know that we didn't get a chance to cover?
Well, two things I would like to say. You spoke about people being slick with getting properties. Every single day, our court is flooded with title searchers who are looking for properties that are subject to probate. So they know when someone passes away, and you go to some neighborhoods and it's an aging neighborhood and people are passing off. And so they are praying and waiting for your family members to pass away and for you all not to have your affairs in order. But for all of those that are getting their affairs in order and do have a will, just want to put it out there that consider giving and leaving a legacy to causes that are important to you, be it your church, your alma mater, your college, your sorority, your fraternity. You have life insurance policies. Consider giving 5% to a cause that you love and leaving a legacy that will far surpass your lifetime. So not only is it important for us to plan for our families, but for those things that are important for us, other communities and cultures give back and plan ahead. In this way, we need to get our communities to do the same so that we can continue to thrive and those causes that we love can continue to thrive. That's all I have, Ms. Stovall.
Well, thank you so very much again, Judge Johnson, for all the invaluable information. Oh my goodness, we learned a lot. And so we appreciate it. I guess we would now let you go back to the busy courtroom that you have, the time you got left. And we definitely, you all make sure that if you live in the county, in Fulton County, Judge Johnson is your judge for probate court, because it is a countywide election that was held. And so you live in Fulton County, this is your probate court judge, Judge Johnson. So make sure that you reach out to her office for any additional questions that you may need. And hopefully on a good note that you will be there before her court because you got everything in order and just a quick process and not on a bad note. And then if you and all the other things that they offer. So thank you again, Judge Johnson.
It's been a pleasure to be with you all. Thank you so much for having me. Everyone, get your affairs in order for the new year.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
All right. So you all tell me, where else can you receive that type of information except on Issues and Answers on WCEG Talk Radio? I think I mentioned that you can now listen on the and go through our app. So we do have an app. And that way, if you're driving and you don't have time to turn on your phone, because you're not supposed to be watching your phone and mess with your phone while you're driving, you can listen to it on the app. And so, so you all know now what time it is. It's time for the Say What segment. I only have a few minutes left to get this in. I have about 3 say words that some of it just came to me. And I said, you know what, say what? So, of course, these are everyday situations that are happening all around us that make us want to say what? So I was, and there was a YouTube show called Underneath the Glamour. And they talked about Frederica Washington, who was also known as Freddie Washington, who was born December 23rd, 1903 in Savannah. She was an actress, dancer, civil rights activist born to parents with European ancestors, which contributed to her fair skin. She refused to pass for white and stayed true to her Blackness. Famously known for her role as the daughter in the movie Imitation of Life. Do y'all remember that movie, Imitation of Life, when the mother was Black and the daughter was very fair-skinned, and then the mother went to her job and she acted like she didn't even know her mama, and she was telling people that she don't know why that woman is here, and she was passing off as a white person. Well, that's the actress I'm talking about. I happened to see some information on her. And I don't know if you knew that she was also a dancer for Josephine Baker, and she also danced overseas. And in the movie Emperor Jones, starring Paul Robeson, her skin had to be darkened so the audience wouldn't think Paul was having a romance with a white woman. How about that, y'all? In 2007, the movie was ranked by Time magazine as 25 most important films on race. She retired because there weren't many roles for Blacks at that time. She didn't want to take roles where she had to pass as white. So she was one of those actors that refused to pass as white, even though she could have passed as white. And also, she co-founded the Negro Actors Guild of America and served as its first executive secretary. The organization advocated for roles for Blacks and worked with the NAACP president. And unfortunately, she passed away in 1994. So she lived a long life, but I just thought that I was passing through. And of course, we're getting ready for Black History Month next month. And so I just thought that would be very good to just even talk about, known as Freddie Washington. I love watching that movie, Imitation of Life. So I thought that was fascinating. So that's my one say what. The second say what. I heard on the radio and read an article by Atlanta News First. A state senator is introducing a bill for a minimum of 10-year sentence called the 3 Gs bill: gangs, guns, and gone. All right. Senate Bill 7 will require any person who is holding or within arm's reach of their firearm or blade that's longer than 3 inches while committing a violent crime to serve a mandatory time of 10 years, y'all. Now, you all remember hearing about mandatory sentences. You can negotiate, you can cry, you can just look all kind of crazy ways. If you're convicted, it's a minimum of 10 years. If this bill is signed into law, it's not law yet, it's just a bill. This includes murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, are all on that list. So if somebody's using a gun, whether it's a play gun or not, you're going away for minimum of 10 years. And also for trafficking illegal drugs for using a gun, whether it's loaded or not, when you're committing that crime. So we have to talk to our young people and old people too, but most of our young people, because 10 years off of your life minimum is a long time, especially you go in at 18, 17, you're not getting out to 27, then you got a record and all this stuff. You heard the judge talking earlier about what you won't be able to do when you have a record. So that's a say what. That's a say what. So my next say what, and I got to run fast, y'all, because it's 4:47. According to AJC article today, did you know 4 out of 14 lawmakers who are U.S. lawmakers on the House of Representatives do not live in the districts they represent? How can they truly represent the area when they don't reside there? Yes, they vote on issues pertaining to not only Georgia statewide, but also all the states in America. We got all of that. The question becomes, why don't they want to live in a district which elected them? That's a question for the voters. According to current law, members of Congress are only required to live in the states they represent. That's the only thing they're required to. So if you're running for U.S. Congress, and that's the House of Representatives, just like with the senators, U.S. senators, you have to live in the state, but you don't have to live for the U.S. House district. You know that they're district. That means they're carved out areas where they're supposed to represent. But they don't have to live in those areas, as long as they live in the state of Georgia. So the question is, why not the U.S. House members? Why aren't they required to live in their district? And the local level, they are required to live in their district. When you run like Judge Johnson, she has to live in Fulton County. If someone was running for House of Representatives seat, they have to live in the district in which they are running for. The commission, city council, all of those areas, but not for the U.S. House of Representatives. So that's to say what? All right, so you all know politics is a part of our lives, whether you like to play us or not. Everything we do is centered around politics, around policies, and the people who implement them. So you must stay involved and keep asking questions to those who are elected to make sure they are held accountable. Yes, Miss Tina, you didn't know that they didn't have to live in their district, yeah, to represent you. That's right. So keep asking those questions to those who are elected and make sure they are held accountable. An informed voter is a smart voter. And I know everyone who listens to Issues and Answers with Valencia Stovall is an informed voter, because that's my job, to make sure you stay informed. I always say hashtag do your job. So that's what we want the elected officials to do. Do your job. Now, on to my announcements. Thanks to all who submitted their Georgia Single Parent Legacy Builders nominees. And so we're excited. I think we have about 30, maybe a little bit more than 30 that were nominated across the state of Georgia for being an outstanding parent, single parent. I see Beverly's on here. Beverly, you have to correct me if that's the right number. I know last we talked was about 30. We will kick off festivities on March the 21st, which is the official holiday in Georgia for Georgia House Resolution 279. You all know that was my second bill I passed when I was a legislator, and it was signed into law in 2018. And so now in the state of Georgia, we have March the 21st is recognized as Single Parent Day in the state. Yay! And you don't have to be a female to be a single parent. You can be a male. And each year we do recognize our male single parents. So Beverly said there are 34 that were nominated for a single parent. They are all across the state, y'all. They're not just in Metro. This is Georgia's Single Parent Day, not Fulton County, not Clayton, not anywhere else, but Georgia Single Parent. And a special shout out to those grandparents that are raising their grandchildren, or who have raised their grandchildren, because they're having to become a single parent. I think next year, we talked about it, and we're going to end up adding a category for single parents who are now have adult children, and also single parents that have, like I said, we have adult children. We want to recognize them too. But guess what? Just because you didn't nominate your single parent, even if your single parent is now that you are adult, and you still want to recognize your mama, your dad who raised your grandmama or auntie, guess what? You can now bring them to a luncheon for the awards and recognition, and they will be recognized. We do a special segment of the program, and that's going to be on March the 25th, is where we're going to do a cumulative, we're going to culminate the awards and recognition luncheon on Saturday, March the 25th at Sonesta Hotel, and that's Atlanta Airport in the East Point, Atlanta area. So you can celebrate your single mother or father by purchasing a ticket. You go to nationallg.org. That's https://nationallg.org. I'm gonna ask Beverly to put that into the chat box for us, so you can be able to go and start purchasing your ticket. Well, I don't know if we have tickets on sale yet, but we need sponsors. So if you want to be able to sponsor our event, we need your sponsorship. We need vendors. So make sure that you're reaching out, and somebody you know has a business and you want to get it before at least 200 people all at one time in one building, then make sure that you become a sponsor for our Georgia Single Parent Legacy Builders Award event. All right. Next announcement. You all know each year for the past 4 years, I know, I've been teaming up with Dr. Dietrich Poindexter with Change for Hope. And so we do the I Am Powerful Teen Summit. So every year, I don't know how Dr. Poindexter come up with these themes, but she comes up with a theme every year. It's something different. And so this year is I Am Protected. It's going to be held for our teenagers from 12 years to 19 on Saturday, February the 18th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Golden Glide Skating Ring. Yes, the students going to get to skate. And we're going to give them the information first. And then after, they have unlimited skating until they drop or until you come and pick them up. And so the entry fee is $10, and plus they have to bring a personal hygiene item, because we're going to be donating those items to a family shelter in the area. So it's Saturday, February the 18th. You can go to change4hope .org to be able to purchase your tickets for this event. And we'll also be selling them at the door as well, because we know some of these young people, you know, they decided at the last minute that they want to go to the event, and then you end up having to drop them off and then come back and pick them up. Make sure you come back and pick up the young people, okay? But we're going to have fun, music, entertainment, all of that. And the topics are gun violence, protect yourself against gun violence, sexual health, and mental health. And so we're also looking for sponsors and vendors for that as well. Do the grandparents have to be single parents to be nominated? We've closed the nomination, but anybody that was a single parent, whether it was an auntie that was raising a child or an uncle or grandparent, it did not matter. But you can still bring your grandparent, single parent to the event so they can be recognized on March the 25th. But I just talked about the Teen Summit, February 18th. Okay, we wind it down. Also, I've always mentioned about me being a co-presenter with my sister Sharon for Making the Connection, Muster 411 Clayton County. And where we meet twice a month, and actually next month be our last meeting, then we'll start a whole new cohort over. And we'll be sending out information if you're interested in that. And we get dived in deep on how to best utilize your government to make sure they're working for you. The participants are gaining knowledge on the best ways to navigate the government. And last week, they visited Georgia State Capitol for National School Choice Week in concert with Seven Pillars Career Academy. And they got a chance to meet the elected officials. They received a personal tour by yours truly. So, you know, they got a really good tour because I showed them everything. I had them meeting everybody, you know, that I ran into at the Capitol. They were able to take pictures with Governor Kemp in his office because it was a small group. And then we just so happened to run into Secretary of State Raffensperger. So we took pictures with the Secretary of State. And then with much appreciation for Representative Rhonda Burno, who's now took, with the redistricting, she took over District 74, but is now District 77 in Clayton County. And so she was very gracious for making sure we had a room reserved. We were able to take pictures on the in the chambers over on the side. They call it the ante room. So we really appreciate her for always supporting whatever we're doing here. And you know, it was kind of strange to return back to the Capitol. We did something there last year, March the 21st. It was like a in and out. I don't think they were in session even that day. But to actually go back and walk walk around that marble floor and taking the parents and students, some of them first time ever going to the state capitol, you know, it was very rewarding for me, and especially when I got a chance to see all my former colleagues that I had worked with, former lobbyists I had been working with, bugging and bothering them about legislation, and also the staff at the state capitol. Was so warming. Whenever in the office we went into, they welcomed them. And when we went into Speaker Pro Tem's office, and her administrative assistant gave us water, drinks, make sure we would, you know, anything else, even gave some candy to one of the children as well. So it was just really, really nice to be back. And of course, everybody wanted to know, are you coming back down to the state capitol? I just laughed, of course, and said, only God knows what's next for me. So for our Making the Connection, our next in-person that we'll be doing will be our Clayton County School Board meeting on February the 6th. So we'll be taking a group of parents there so they can see what happens at the school board meeting, and hopefully they'll be able to sign up and speak for their 3 minutes about what they're concerned about when it comes to the education of their child in Clayton County and dealing with Seven Pillars Career Academy. All right, so this evening, you all, at 7 o'clock, make sure you tune in to Clubhouse, Reaching Across the Aisles. Every Monday at 7 p.m. Tonight, we will discuss education in Georgia, talking about school choice. And you know, when you think about reaching across the aisle, and I saw something in AJC where they did a poll, and they released it this week, and it said that many Georgia voters would prefer their elected officials to work together rather than squabble. So that means a lot. And some 54% of Georgia voters say the state's elected officials should value the art of compromise to find solutions, as opposed to roughly 1/3 who want politicians to stand on principle. So on 1/3 of Georgians say, we want y'all to stand on the principle of the party. The 54%, over half, said we want y'all to work together and stop all that fighting, because the issues that unite us are the ones that end up tearing us apart. So we do have a special election on March 21st for Clayton County Sheriff. There are about 5 candidates. Also, Jonesboro Mayor and City Council will also have an election. And it's and also one of my former colleagues, Representative Mike Glanton, he did resign from his seat. He served in the legislature, I know, over at least 12, maybe 15 years or so. I know it was over 12 years. And so he resigned, unfortunately. And so what meant that left a vacant seat for the House of Representatives for the state, down at the state capitol. And so I definitely wish him the best, him and his family, on whatever the future endeavors that he has. And we served together, and a lot of when we served together was fighting for better school choice options in our county and in our state. So we just thank him for his service. And now we got some people that's going to be jumping in the race for House of Representatives down in Clayton County, in that area which he served. All right, y'all, time has caught us. All good things must come to an end. The goal of Issues and Answers with Honorable Stovall is to educate you on those things you might not think about unless you're in a situation to be concerned. If you have show ideas, send me an email at contact@GoStovall, and we will return again on Monday, February the 6th, as we kick off Black History Month. Author Ron Mack, you all know, he was a guest on my show a couple of shows ago, but he's going to join us for a historic dive into Blacks in the Bible. So you don't want to miss it. I'm going to dedicate 2 shows to it. And so Monday, February the 6th at 4 p.m. All right, you all take care, be safe, and until we meet and see each other again, thank you.